What's going on YouTube? Welcome in Wade's Ventures YouTube channel. Appreciate you guys showing up. I'm super excited for 2018. Really excited to kick it off with this amazing Ross video. Hopefully you guys like it. Hopefully it helps. I know that over the course of the last few months, purchasing a few hundred pairs from Ross's all around the state of Oregon, I have learned so much that I wish I would have known when I first started. So we're going to kind of go over all that. We'll make this video short and sweet. And those of you who don't know, a lot of resellers are now going to Ross, Marshalls, Burlington, all these different stores to purchase shoes that are basically below market value and then selling them for market value on platforms like eBay, Amazon, and so many others. And those of you who don't know, I am actually Wade's Ventures here on YouTube, on Instagram, Wade's Ventures, and my main, one of my main sources of income is selling on eBay and Amazon. And so every once in a while, I will buy quite a bit from Ross Dress for Less and then resell it online. So this is going to be the Ross Dress for Less guide or tips or however you want to look at it. Let's get started. We'll start with the basics. We're on the main website here. This is going to be rossstores.com. And what you'll do basically is go to the main website. I recommend you sign up for the newsletter. I believe Ross is basically, they're growing quite big. They're opening another 1,000 stores throughout the US. And so this is going to be a great way to sign up for their newsletter. It shows you events, new merchandise, and possibly if there's new Ross Dress for Less is going up in your location. So another thing too is the store locator, guys. I know this is basic to start off, but the store locator will show you all of their stores within your immediate area. I've been to virtually every single one within the state of Oregon. That being said, they've got all of it listed here. Amazing hours. Ross is one of the few department stores that closes quite late and gives you a lot of time to shop just in case you're full-time, you have a full-time job and you resell on the side. Another thing too is I will go on their website, especially if I'm going to different states, to find out where all the locations are at. You would be surprised how many Ross Dress for Lesses there is, and you don't want to miss any, especially if corporate sends all these locations a letter to mark down merchandise like clothes and shoes. You want to be able to hit them quick, and you want to be able to go to a good amount of them within your area, so you can pick up those shoes, clearance, clothes, or any type of any type of merchandise that they're selling that you can resell for more. So that being said, last thing here on their website is they do have Instagram. I didn't know this until recently, but if you would like to add them to Instagram, you definitely can. So let's go ahead and move on to the bread and butter of this video. So this is a big one. So over the course of a few weeks when I was purchasing all these Nike and Under Armour and all these shoes, a good portion of them had dirt, scuffs. I purchased some clothing that had a few stains. And what was happening was I was just buying these items. Well, what I didn't realize, and what a lot of people may not realize, is if they are a little dirty, you can easily clean it. But what I would do is I would take these shoes that had scuffs or dirt marks, and when you purchase them at the cash register, you'll ask for the manager. And as you can see on the screen there, they gave me anywhere from 10 to 20% off that item because there was a defect in the item, whether it's, dirt or scuff marks or whatever the case may be. Stuff that's easily, cleaned up on my end when I bring it home. But it helps. It takes an item that's already deeply discounted and discounts it more. And it kind of helps with your time too, because you have to clean off these shoes. A lot of times these shoes fall off the shelves from people, trying them on. Or if they're larger shoes, they're just thrown around for a few weeks to a month until somebody buys it. So definitely look over the merchandise. If there's issues, take it to the cashier and see if they can get a manager to apply a manual credit per item that has a defect. And it could be any defect at all that wasn't there prior. So that's one thing that I did towards the tail end of all my shoe buying. But during the very beginning, there's been shoes that I passed up or didn't purchase or did purchase and didn't get this discount. And 20% can make a big dent in your bill, especially if there is issues with these items when you purchase them. So that's tip number one. All right, so this is going to be a big one that really helped me. So long story short, as you can see on the screen, I purchased a lot of football open field pants from some Ross Dress for Lesses around Oregon. Now, what was happening was, and this is something that I found, so basically the way that it works is corporate sends them a list of items that they need to mark down. And in this case, it was the football open field pants that was clearanced. Now, at the few locations, I found that they were $4.49. And then what was happening was I was going to Ross Dress for Lesses a few miles away, and they were showing $6.49 and even sometimes higher. Now, what was happening that I found out was even though corporate sent the list of items that need to be marked down to clearance, some of these locations simply just didn't mark them down yet, and they were lagging behind. So what I found to be useful, not only for these open field pants, but I did it for a lot of shoes, was when I go to one location and I see that exact same item for $4.49, I would purchase it. And as you can see on my receipt, it used to be, it should have been $4.49, but they were trying to charge a little over $6. And so what happened was I talked to a manager and they manually discounted down to $4.49, because what I did was I showed them a receipt of when I purchased it prior at a different Ross at a cheaper rate. And so guys, a lot of times people will pass it up. So if you buy an item real cheap at one Ross and you see it more expensive at another, you'll pass it up. I don't recommend doing that. Keep your receipt. Show them that's the same exact item that you paid for and it's cheaper. And a lot of times, most of the time, they'll discount it down to the cheaper price. And that's something I did. I purchased a total of 47 open field football pants that I'm probably going to profit $20 on after my fees and shipping and item cost when it becomes football season next year. And so that's something to keep in mind, guys. When you see a cheaper item and then you go to a different Ross and it's actually more expensive, I don't think it's more expensive. They just probably didn't mark it down yet, and so they may be lagging behind. So talk with the manager and they can manually mark it down for you. So let's go on to the next. So you're probably wondering why my beautiful, amazing grandma is on the screen right now. And that is because every Tuesday, senior citizens 55 and up get 10% off their entire purchase with Ross Dress for Less. And this is something that honestly I didn't take advantage of. I really wish I did. So grandma, next time Tuesday rolls around and I'm purchasing something at Ross Dress for Less, I'll buy dinner, because a lot of times us resellers purchase a lot of inventory at once, and 10% can definitely help towards the bottom line. So really utilize that. Friends, family, grandparents, parents, anybody over 55 on Tuesdays at Ross Dress for Less can get 10% off the purchase. And that helps towards the bottom line, especially if you're purchasing stuff on clearance. It's already deeply discounted. So something I wish I would have took advantage of. I definitely will in the future. Let's go on to the next. All right, so I want to bring everything to the table on this video, and one way to get an even deeper discount at Ross Dress for Less is through employees. Now, from what I was told, talking with the managers and employees there, is every employee gets 20% off, and then on top of that, twice a year and sometimes more, they get 40% off. Now think about that. 20% is great, but 40% twice a year is amazing. So buddy up with those Ross employees. Another leverage play is if you're a full-time reseller and you have maybe a day or 2 days that are less hectic than others, it may make sense if you are an avid Ross Dress for Less buyer, is to possibly interview and get a job at Ross Dress for Less just for that discount. Now, be forewarned, I was told that any resellers that go to Ross Dress for Less, they're not technically supposed to sell to resellers. So that being said, guys, try not to advertise it too much that you are a reseller when you're purchasing items at Ross Dress for Less. And again, this is all my experiences. This is what I've heard, so it may change in the future, but 20% off is amazing. 40% off is fantastic a few times a year. So that's just another way that possibly if you have somebody in the family that works for Ross Dress for Less, or you're thinking about getting a 1 or 2 day job there just for the discount, that would even help towards the bottom line, getting those items even cheaper than to resell online. So let's go on to the last one, guys. All right, so this is the last kind of thing that I experienced. It's probably the most important for me. Again, this is my experiences. This is probably one of the things that, if had this not happened, I wouldn't have been able to purchase like an extra 150 pairs of shoes from Ross. So long story short, I was purchasing shoes from Ross Dress for Less, and when I would go to one Ross, they would be clearanced, discounted, and marked to the correct price. But when I go to another Ross, a lot of times they wouldn't even be clearanced. There was no clearance tag. Like the same exact shoe was clearanced at one Ross, but it wasn't clearanced at another. And I was told by talking with management there is probably, again, kind of like the football pants, where that department simply just hasn't got around to putting the clearance tag on. And so I went to one Ross Dress for Less, and I talked with the assistant manager, and I was like, hey, I purchased this at a recent Ross on clearance for $9.99, and you guys have this shoe for $20. It's the same exact shoe, and I know corporate sent them a list that this shoe should be clearanced, but it's not on clearance yet at your Ross. And I asked, hey, can you have somebody come here with the clearance, because they have this scanner. It's not the one that they use at the register. It's a small little scanner that spits out the clearance tags. And I asked, hey, can you bring that scanner and scan some of these shoes, and I'll purchase like 20 or 30 of them. Well, the employees said no, they couldn't do that. I just had to wait for it to be clearanced out at their Ross. And so me being me, I was curious, and I was super nice, but I went to the actual manager and I said, hey, I will take a lot of these shoes off your hands. I know these are already clearance. You just simply haven't put the tags on there. Can you please have maybe somebody or yourself help me put the tags on there, and then I'll purchase these shoes. Because guys, what's happening is all these resellers are going to these stores, but they're not asking these questions, and they're not asking them. So they'll just pass these good deals by because the clearance tag's not on there. But I know for a fact the clearance tag's on there because I've seen it at the Ross. I purchased it. I've got receipts, right? So it's really important to keep your receipt when you go to each Ross, because the prices may change, and you want to be there to show them that, hey, I've already purchased it at this price. So long story short, this happened at 5 different Ross Dress for Less stores for over 100 and probably 150 pairs of shoes that I wouldn't have bought because they didn't have an actual clearance tag on there, but they were in fact clearanced. It's just they didn't have that clearance tag on there because the department hadn't done it yet from corporate. So come to find out, the majority of them, what they told me was go pick out all the shoes, bring them to me, they'll scan them, and then they'll put the tag on there, and I actually purchased them at the register. And keep in mind, the last tip, guys, is they've got 2 ways to scan merchandise. The first way is their cash register. Now, if you bring them an item that you know is on clearance from a past Ross and they scan it with the cash register, it will still show up full price. They have to actually do it with the clearance device that they have that spits out those clearance tags before they scan it with the register. And that's what all the managers did. I grabbed the merchandise that I wanted that I knew was already on clearance. They were kind enough to scan it with the little clearance scanner, put it on the tag, and then they would scan it with the cash register, and I would purchase it at the clearance price. So don't pass it up just because there is no clearance tag on there if you know for a fact it's on clearance, because I would say over 60% of the Rosses that I went to didn't have the correct clearance tag on there. Or they had the correct clearance tag on there, but it needed another clearance on top of the clearance that had already been done. Kind of like those open field pants that were already on clearance, but there was actually another clearance discount on top of that they had not done. So just keep that in mind. If you see it cheap somewhere, keep your receipt, show them that, hey, you probably haven't done the original clearance tag on there, and be as nice and polite as possible. And a lot of times they'll throw that on there so you can purchase it at the cheaper rates. All right, so this is an awesome tip. It is definitely something that I used recently. So the Ross Dress for Less store lines, so the lines that lead up to the cashier, are super long, and the key here is obviously getting to source quick as you possibly can. So I cannot take any credit whatsoever for this tip. This was actually a tip from Hustler Hacks. I highly recommend you guys check out his channel. But that being said, what I definitely wouldn't do without is what you can do to kind of avoid these super long lines is purchase like a really cheap item for $1 or $2. Like a pair of socks or just something that you can purchase cheap. And that way, if you ever run into a Ross Dress for Less where the line is out the door, you can basically return your item and you'll jump to the head of the line. Because if you ever notice, Ross Dress for Less has on the right hand side the people that want to buy the items, and on the left hand side returns. And so if you have a return, you jump up kind of at the beginning of the line, although most of them will take 2 buying customers and then 1 return customer. So just keep that in mind, but still, you can kind of jump in the very front of the line if you have 1 return. So having a really cheap item on hand just for that reason, so you can return 1 item and buy more, definitely helps. Super awesome tip. And anyways, hopefully that is something that you guys implement too to kind of save you some time. So thank you so much, everybody watching this video. Hopefully it helps you. There's so many different scenarios in which that you may use some of these different techniques. I'm Wade's Ventures. My YouTube channel is going to grow quite a bit 2018. My family and my beautiful wife and my son and my newly son or daughter on the way is going to be a big part of this YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your guys' time. Please subscribe if you're liking this content. A lot more is going to be coming out in 2018. I've got high hopes for Wade's Ventures YouTube channel. And all I can say is this year I'm really going to look to improve the little things in life and really enjoy everything I do and see where it leads. So hopefully you guys enjoy this content. Go kill it. Go crush it in 2018. And have a great rest of your day. Thank you.